Hello, and welcome to A-Level Psychology Revision on Moral Development. Piaget used moral comparisons to investigate children's moral knowledge and understanding and how it changed with age. He also investigated how children viewed rules by playing games with children. With moral comparisons, he told children two short stories, one where the intention was bad but the consequences were not as bad as in story 2, and one where the intention was good but with more severe consequences than in story 1. For example, the broken cup story. John is called to dinner and accidentally knocks down 15 cups that were behind the door. On the other hand, Henry tries to get some jam out of the cupboard whilst his mother went out, and he ends up knocking over one cup in the process. The pre-moral child, ages 0 to 4 to 5, doesn't understand rules. They are egocentric, meaning they only see the world from their own viewpoint. A heteronymous child in the moral realism stage, age 6 to 10 years, understands that rules can't be changed as they're made by a higher authority. They believe consequences make actions good or bad, and believe in harsh punishment and imminent justice. This means if something bad happens after you do something bad, it was punishment for what you did. As intentions aren't considered, lies are defined as simply things that are untrue. An autonomous child, aged 10 and over in the moral relativism stage, understands that rules were made by people and can be changed if all agree to it. They use intention to evaluate the morality of acts and now understand that lies are defined as untrue with the intent to deceive. They believe punishment should fit the crime, and the understanding is dissented, meaning others' views are considered as well as their own. Evaluation. Piaget used small opportunity samples which aren't representative of the target population, therefore you can't generalize and apply it to them. He also investigates two variables at once, and as you can't tell which variable causes which results, these design issues decrease the validity of the results. Cognitive demand. Feldman et al. 1976 said that moral judgments were influenced by the order of the information presented. Moral judgments were largely based on what was heard last, as they forgot the first info presented. This means they had an incomplete recollection of the moral comparisons. The method tests memory, not reasoning, which makes it unreliable. Piaget also only goes up to age 10. Moral understanding develops after age 10, as 10 and 20-year-olds have very different moral reasoning. Kohlberg is better as he has increased sophistication beyond age 10, which means it's more likely to be accurate and therefore more useful to us. Lauper and Turiel said that children aged 6 to 10 sometimes question rules imposed by parents, which contradicts Piaget's moral realism stage. This decreases the validity of his theory. Kohlberg used moral dilemmas to investigate how children's moral knowledge and understanding changed with age, and was more interested in why moral choices were made than how. Children were told of a situation with a choice between two courses of action. Both actions could be considered wrong. He used the results to extend and develop Piaget's stages, and extended the ages to 20. For example, the Heinz dilemma. Should Heinz steal a life-saving drug he can't afford for his terminally ill wife? Kohlberg's stages. Level 1, pre-conventional level, 0 to 7 years. Stage 1, obedience and punishment orientation. Morality is motivated by a need to avoid punishment. Stage 2, instrumental relativist orientation. Morality is motivated by a need to satisfy your own desires. Level 2, conventional level, 8 to 13 years. Stage 3, good boy, nice girl orientation. Morality is motivated by a need to avoid rejection and disapproval from others. Stage 4, law and order orientation. Morality is motivated by a need to avoid criticism from authority. Level 3, post-conventional level, 13 to 20 years. Stage 5, legalistic orientation. Morality is motivated by community respect, social order and living under laws. Stage 6, universal ethical orientation. Morality is motivated by the conscience. As you can see, there are gradual changes between the three levels. The pre-conventional level goes from self-centered to avoiding rejection and criticism in the conventional level to empathy in the post-conventional level. Evaluation. Kohlberg's moral dilemmas lack ecological validity. as you don't generally ask or have dilemmas about cancer and stealing in everyday children's lives. Therefore, you can't apply it to real life. They also lack predictive validity. The dilemmas aren't relevant to children, so they don't predict what they would actually do. Therefore, the responses may be inaccurate. Gender biased. Gilligan says that males are justice-orientated and females are care-orientated. Therefore, morals aren't universal, so Kohlberg's stages can't be applied to females. The stories and samples were also all males, so you can't apply them to females. This questions the validity of the results, as females may answer differently. Culturally biased. Gardner says it may not be appropriate to apply Kohlberg's stages to other cultures, as Kohlberg only used children from Western culture in his samples. Also, cognitive abilities may lack in children, as they may not understand the complex language used, or they may have an incomplete recollection of the dilemma. Therefore, the dilemmas may not measure moral reasoning and instead understanding of language and memory. Therefore, they're unreliable. Gilligan believed that Kohlberg's theory was gender biased towards males, as his moral dilemmas, such as the Heinz dilemma, were justice-orientated. Gilligan believed that males are justice-orientated and females are care and responsibility-orientated. Justice meant behaving fairly towards others, and care meant not ignoring those in need. Therefore, Gilligan created this theory for females, and had dilemmas like the abortion dilemma, where she asked 15 to 33-year-olds whether they would have an abortion and used the answers to create 3 levels. Level 1, self-interest. Decisions are made according to what's best for yourself, and the transitional stage is from concern for self to care and concern for others. Level 2, self-sacrifice. Decisions are made according to what's best for others in order to gain their acceptance. The transitional stage is self-awareness relative to responsibility of care and others' needs. And level 3, non-violence. To avoid harming and hurting others, and to find the best fit between care and others' needs and the self. Evaluation. Gilligan has high ecological validity as she uses real-life dilemmas like abortion, therefore you can generalize and apply them to real life. This is better than Kohlberg as he uses hypothetical scenarios. However, Gilligan only sampled 15 to 33-year-olds, and there is evidence from Piaget and Kohlberg to suggest that moral understanding develops before these ages. For example, Kohlberg says it develops around 4 to 20 years, which is more likely to be an accurate timeline, and therefore Kohlberg is better. There is also evidence against there being gender differences in moral development. Walker reviewed research evidence on sex differences in moral development. He reviewed 80 studies, 152 samples using over 10,000 people, and found no differences between males and females. Johnston also found that both males and females can switch from justice to care-orientated. This decreases the validity of the theory and makes it unreliable as the evidence doesn't support it. It is also, ironically, gender biased as it doesn't compare men and women's moral reasoning, as men weren't sampled for the abortion dilemma. Therefore, the differences aren't proven and it lacks evidence. As the theory doesn't improve on Kohlberg, it's not useful. Damon, distributive justice. Damon investigated moral reasoning about distributive justice, which is making decisions about sharing and how it changes with age, from ages 4 to 10 years. The example he used was a dilemma on how to share the profits from selling paintings at a school fair, and he used the responses to create 3 levels. Level 0A, 4 to 5 years. Simple self-interest. For example, I want the most, so I should get the most. Level 0B, self-interest plus a justification based on observable characteristics. For example, I'm the biggest, so I should get the most. Level 1A, 6 to 7 years. Strict equality. For example, everyone should get the same amount. Level 1B, merit. Distributive calculations are used. For example, Tom did the most work, so he should get a bit more. And level 2A, 8 to 10 years. Benevolence. Compromises are made to balance the different needs and claims of the group. For example, Nori is poorest, so she should get more, and Tom did lots of work, so he should get more too. Level 2B. Compromises between reciprocity and the overall group goal. For example, since we're raising money for the school too, half of the money will go to the school and the rest will be divided based on the amount of work done and the needs of the group. Evaluation. Damon has high ecological validity as the school fair is a real-life setting relevant to children, therefore you can apply it to real life. However, it lacks predictive validity as the responses don't predict how children may actually act in that situation, which questions the validity of the stages. Damon has cross-cultural support as Enright et al. Replicated the findings in the USA, Sweden and Zaire. This increases the reliability of the theory as the evidence supports it. The replication by Enright et al. Shows children advance through Damon's levels, and in Damon's longitudinal study, 85% progressed to higher levels. This supporting evidence increases the reliability. Enright et al. Also used pictures in their study, which removes some of the cognitive demands such as memory and language issues. Therefore, the children are more likely to have a complete recollection of the dilemma, which improves on Damon as the responses are more likely to be accurate. Eisenberg. Eisenberg investigated moral reasoning about pro-social behaviour, which is behaviour concerned with helping, kindness and generosity, using dilemmas with a choice between self-interest or helping another person. For example, a dilemma on Mary's party. Should Mary stop to help the child who had fallen over, even if she'll miss the best bits of the party? Eisenberg asked children dilemmas like this and used the responses to create 5 levels for children aged from 0 to 7 to 16 plus. Level 1. Hedonistic orientation. The child is concerned with their own selfish goals from 0 to 7 years. Level 2. Needs of others orientation. From 7 to 11 years, others' needs are placed over your own. Level 3. Approval and interpersonal/stereotype orientation from 11 to 14 years. Children have stereotyped ideas of how good people and bad people should act. For example, helping others makes you a good person. Level 4. Self-reflective. 12 plus. Level 4A. Empathetic. Sympathy, concern, and guilt will emerge. Level 4B. Transitional. Children internalize values, norms, responsibilities, and duties. For example, I feel like it's right to help others. And Level 5, strongly internalized stage, 16 years plus. There is a desire to meet obligations in society, and children care about upholding rights. Evaluation. There is a general shift from being self-orientated to concern for others and consideration of values, which reflects Kohlberg's gradual changes in stages. For example, the good boy/nice girl orientation is similar to the approval and stereotype orientation. This increases the validity of Eisenberg's stages as they're supported by Kohlberg. There is also cross-cultural support from Bianca et al., where there is similar moral development in German, Polish, and Italian kids. As Eisenberg's findings were replicated in other cultures, this increases the validity of Eisenberg's theory. However, there is Western cultural bias. T.H. found that in Papua New Guinea, they are more needs-orientated into adulthood. Therefore, you can't generalize Eisenberg's stages to all cultures. Personal dilemmas better test moral reasoning than legal wrongdoing, as they're based on moral understanding rather than who follows the rules. Therefore, they're more reliable as they measure what they set out to measure. Eisenberg has high ecological validity as she uses situations in dilemmas which are directly relevant to children, such as a birthday party, therefore they're more appropriate. However, it lacks predictive validity as it doesn't predict what children would actually do in that situation, which questions the validity of the stages. Freud. Freud says that morality develops in the phallic stage between ages 4 to 5 by resolving the Oedipus and Electra complexes. Oedipus and Electra complexes. In the Oedipus complex, the boy resolves the conflict with his father by identifying with him, and then acquires the father's moral beliefs through internalizing them. Electra. The girl resolves the conflict with her mother by identifying with her and acquires her mother's moral beliefs through internalizing. However, girls, according to Freud, are morally weaker than boys, so they don't identify as strongly with the mother. This causes the superego to develop.
The superego is the morality principle which learns and stores information that is considered right and wrong. The superego develops in two parts, the ego ideal and the conscience. The ego ideal stores the type of behavior that we should perform to improve pride and self-esteem, whilst the conscience prevents us from performing wrong actions or causes guilt when we do. Evaluation. It's gender biased. Hoffman found that there was little difference between boys and girls in moral development, and Gilligan says that the theory is based on unjustified assumptions about male superiority. The gender assumption lacks supporting evidence, which decreases the validity of the theory. Also, conscience emerging by age 6 is not widely supported. Kohlberg and Piaget both say that the development continues over a longer period. Also, 6 and 20-year-olds have very different moral views, therefore this is likely to be inaccurate. Freud also implies that superego development requires two parents, a male and a female. However, children without a same-sex parent have normal moral development. Therefore, it's inaccurate as it doesn't apply to real family situations. Bandura et al. From the social learning theory says that children imitate behavior of other adults, not just parents, which is a better explanation for morality. However, the self being divided into three components is useful as it explains the internal conflict that many people feel. However, there is no empirical evidence for the components' existence, so the assumption is unscientific and unreliable as it can't be tested.